Welcome to the Motherhood Alliance podcast, the podcast dedicated to empowering moms and families on their health and wellness journey. I'm Brittany Suttner.
And I'm Andrea Rinkus. Together, we're here to explore holistic approaches that go beyond conventional medicine.
Each week, we dive into topics that matter most to you. Everything from nutrition and mental health to alternative therapies and natural living.
And whether you're a new mom navigating the early stages of parenthood or a seasoned pro looking for new ways to support your family's well-being, you're in the right place.
Even better, all of our guests are local small business owners who you can actually talk to and work with. You can learn more about today's guest and connect with hundreds of other health and wellness professionals through our informative and easy-to-use directory at motherhoodalliance.com.
Before we get started, keep in mind that this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for personal healthcare advice. Please consult your healthcare provider before making any changes based on the podcast content.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Are you ready to help your family thrive? Let's get started. Hi, we are Britt and Drea from motherhoodalliance.com, and in this 4-episode series, we're excited to introduce you to Jennifer Philibek and Mandy Rinne, the energetic and incredibly fun founders of Empowered Minds Kids Studio based out of Appleton. Empowered Minds Kids Studio was started in 2024 after Jen and Mandy, who had been teachers for over 35 years combined, started to recognize that kids needed more than what the classroom alone could provide. They witnessed firsthand that kids needed guidance in building resilience, confidence, and other essential life skills to truly thrive, and that realization led them to take a leap of faith, stepping outside the traditional classroom and into the world of kids' life coaching. Now, as certified kids' life coaches, they offer personalized, play-based coaching to children ages 4 to 13 with the mission to help kids navigate life's challenges with confidence, developing resilience, positive self-esteem, and a strong foundation for lifelong success. Jen and Mandy are also moms who know firsthand that parenting is really hard, and that's why they believe in walking alongside families, offering compassionate support, and just figuring it all out together. As a listener, you're going to gain so many helpful parenting nuggets, or Tic Tacs, as you hear in one of our episodes, from these two ladies. So grab a notepad and pen, and let's jump into today's conversation.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. We are super excited to welcome back Jen and Mandy from Empowered Kids. We're super excited to have you guys back here. So this episode, we're going to talk about why play is a secret ingredient of childhood. And if you guys didn't get a chance to listen to the first episode about building resilience in kids, definitely do that because that was super enlightening. It was great. But one of the things that most parents and educators focus on structure is structured learning. But from what we understand from you guys, research shows that play is really how kids truly absorb and retain life skills. So why else is play considered the secret ingredient of childhood?
So I recently read something that said a child can learn a new skill through play in as few as 10 to 20 repetitions compared to the typical 400 repetitions needed through traditional learning methods. And as teachers, Jen and I have really seen the benefits of including play back in the classroom and now in coaching to help kids learn new skills.
Right, whether it be like games or challenges or just adding like more of a fun, playful component to the activity. Maybe it's not like a full-on play activity, but like that playful energy to something in the classroom really just ignites their interest, their engagement, and makes them able to absorb the new information much more easily.
Yeah. So you guys used to teach in public school classrooms. So what was your experience with that? Like, were you able to really incorporate a lot of play into that? Like, how much flexibility did you have?
You had to be really creative.
Yeah.
You had to be really, really creative with your time.
And you had to like really want to do it too, I would think.
Right. It had to be a passion that you had, right? Like Mandy and I both had that similar kind of energy in our classroom that we really saw the value and the need for that engagement and that, excitement of the learning activities. But you have to be so intentional. Like you have your standards that you need to teach, and there's a lot of content that you need to get through. So figuring out how can you get the best bang for your buck with like this activity or this like game that you could, throw in while still meeting that standard and teaching that criteria. So it was, you had to be really resourceful and creative, I think.
Mm-hmm. Very intentional.
I think about it as a parent, if I value this conversation and like having play-based learning available to my child, obviously homeschooling is probably going to be the choice where you're able to control that the most. But
Right.
what types of schools maybe do integrate that a little bit more, and or what kinds of questions should parents be asking a school if they are currently school shopping?
Right. So I think like we think about, like 3K, 4K, maybe even kindergarten still having some of those like play centers or those opportunities for play more. So really asking like when you're touring schools or you're checking things out, like, like how much of the day is structured and how much of the day has like that center opportunity for them to explore different activities or different spaces in the classroom freely. So that's one piece. And I think even in the public schools at those younger ages, they have that kind of structure set up where they have like some opportunities for that free play. As they get on in the public education, there's, I would say, not
Less and less opportunity for that.
right.
So you really need to find a gem of a teacher that's going to put a
Truly.
lot of effort in order to get a more play-based education in a traditional school setting. Yeah, that's tricky. That's hard. So like, and then I think another thing I struggle with personally is homework. It's like if they've been in school all day and they've been working on stuff, and then like to come home, this is when you should be able to move your body, run, get your heart rate up, read, like do whatever you,
Relax.
yeah, have some family time, and then it's like, you got homework to do.
Well, because we
So-
know, right? Like as professionals,
Yeah.
we work like if we have like a 9 to 5 job or we work throughout the day, and then how does it feel when we bring work home?
Oh my gosh.
It's
No.
like dreadful,
Yeah.
right? Like I know it's there, and I know I like need to do it, but it's that like the feeling
Yeah. And your brain is fried.
you already spent
Yeah.
all of your energy, all of your attention, your focus, and especially for those kiddos who struggle being able to attend and be focused and sitting still and really just like applying themselves throughout the whole day in school. And then to ask them to do more of that at home doesn't sit well in my being, but also I know that, other families have different priorities and mindsets when it comes to wanting to make sure that their child is prepared for reality and prepared for life. But
All kids need that unstructured opportunity to play, right? There's so many beautiful benefits of that free play, problem solving, social skills, finding out what their passions are and who they are, I think is so important in that free play.
What do you feel like, you're talking about free play here, which I love. What do you feel like is a good balance of having free play versus giving your kids like structured ideas? And what I mean by that is if you're just home for the day, let's say you're home on a Saturday, giving them no direction and letting them kind of walk into their play area or walk amongst their books
Or
and
be
toys.
bored.
Right. And like figure out what they're going to do versus you being like, you guys are just wandering around. Let's make a fort, like giving them the ideas, as well as what's a good balance of parents interacting and like playing with them versus almost forcing them to have independent play. I have 2 kids that struggled. Always, Mom, come play trucks with me. Come play trucks with me. Mom, come play dolls with me. I have a boy and a girl, so they really don't have any interests that are similar, which has been more challenging than I expected. But they both always wanted me to play with them. And I still see it today where they're not as like creative. And I've always been trying to be aware of this. So
I mean, see, I think that like I'm the opposite. My kids are just like, they go off and do their thing. And I'm like, I need to be more involved? Like I will be, but I've always been like, no, go do your thing.
I think it's different, right?
Yeah.
For each kiddo. My kids are more like yours. Like they're okay to like go and do their own thing, but I also know, and we coach kiddos that need ideas. So I do think that balance is really
I know
tricky.
there's not like one set like good answer. Like I wish that I could be like this many minutes of structured
come
play,
on.
and this like I wish that we could be like, oh yeah, and you should play with them for this long, and then let them play independently for this long. Like every child's so different, so like feeling them out and like you said, reflecting and noticing like it feels like they're really like needing me more. So like maybe I often my own self, what I always would do would like, okay, you guys go play, get started, go play for a little bit. I'm just going to finish up this activity here and then I'll join you. That never went well. It never went well. So then I started doing like, okay, I'm going to join you and I'm going to play with you I wouldn't tell them how long, when it maybe 10, 15 minutes, whatever it would be. And then, okay, now you're started. I'm going to go do my activity now. And they had a much easier time with me leaving then to go do what I needed to do, whether it was like dishwasher or whatever, make dinner.
Yeah.
When I had already like, quote unquote, like filled their cup and like played with them a little bit.
Sure.
So like switching that, like I'll play with you after I'm done with my activity versus like I'll play with you first and then go do my activity.
And I think it's okay that you don't have like a straight answer, like this many minutes and, that sort of thing, because that would just stress all of us parents out anyway. I mean, it's hard enough. I know it's like when my kids were little, like you'd always have the mom guilt, especially like, am I doing enough to prepare them for school and blah, blah, blah. And then you'd go on Pinterest or on Facebook or something. And all these moms have these cutesy activities and it looks way like a ton of work. You try it and the kids either break it right away or it's not interesting, or you do it and you're like, that was way too much work for one thing. And you just get frustrated.
And you probably did it by yourself without your kids. So there wasn't even like relationship bonding. I've been there.
Yeah,
A lot of Pinterest cakes, birthday parties, because I thought that was real cool.
Like that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, because
right?
everybody's doing that.
Right. And so I don't know. It's just really hard.
Don't do that anymore.
Yeah, don't do that. So I'm glad you don't have like that necessarily that exact number, because we need to have that flexibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. Do you guys have any like kind of general tips to continue this conversation on how parents can create an environment that promotes creativity and imaginary play at home? So many kids have toy rooms that are stocked. Other ones have less toys, but maybe more like 40 type stuff. But how can you teach them this skill of using their brain to be creative and imaginative?
Well, so something that I just recently did in my own home actually was I noticed that, like the art supplies and the paper, the markers, all the things weren't like easily ready for them to just dig into and go at. Maybe they were up a little higher from where they could reach easily, because truly I was trying to keep them out of their reach because I didn't want them all over the house.
I get that.
Because then it's chaos and I didn't want to have to clean it up. There's glue sticks everywhere. And then I let go of that control. And I was like, okay, if I want them to be creative, if I want them to explore and be able to be independent, I have to put things where they can get into them at their leisure. Like when the idea sparks them and they want to write a letter, the envelopes have to be available for them. So I made like a station kind of area, a little 3-drawer organizer with all the things. And, we organized it together and we went through like, this is where these things go and this is where this goes, so that they know the homes of all of the materials and it's there for them. And what I have seen since is pure amazing. Like they just go in there when they want. They don't have to ask me for any of the materials and their creativity has just exploded. Now, is there stuff around the house? There is. But I remind myself, I would much rather there be stuff around the house. That means that they're being creative and they're using their imagination versus sitting on a tablet, being quiet and not doing any of those imaginative things. So there's the balance.
Yeah, we have to let go of our control, right? As parents, as moms especially.
Absolutely.
The control
That's
thing
the
is
number
huge.
one.
That's hard.
Yeah.
To practice.
And I think for me, Andrea and I have talked about this too. It's like, I just pick a couple spaces and I'm like, if I can have control of this space, that gives me like, that lessens my anxiety, right? And for me, it's the kitchen. If the kitchen can be clean, I don't care what the playroom or the craft room looks like. That doesn't have to be cleaned every day, at least in my house. But it's like, if the living room can maybe be picked up, chuck everything in the playroom. I don't even care. Some days we clean that up. But the kitchen and like where my viewpoint when I walk in my door, if that can feel less cluttered, we can find a balance.
Absolutely. And I think like teaching them that everything has to have a home. And so like, I know part of the Montessori way is that they teach them like, if you're going to do an activity, you go, you get the materials, you do your activity, and then you put the materials back, which obviously, right? We were raised that way as kids too. Like you put your things back where they came from. Everything has to have a home. So the more that we're intentional about that organization piece, we can teach them like, yeah, absolutely. Get creative, get crafty, and then put the materials back where they belong after.
So another life skill is conflict resolution. When we're talking about free play and siblings specifically, What is your recommendation on how parents should react when siblings are playing together and they start fighting?
Literally every mom is turning the volume up right now.
How quickly do you swoop in as a parent? How much do you let them yell at each other? How important is it to kind of be like, now we handle this with a respectful way? Like, where is the balance there?
I think, you're obviously going to be keeping that watchful eye and listening, right? I always give my kids a little bit of time, right? It's that fine balance of like, ooh, are they going to hurt each other? Are they going to think things going to be flying? So I think it's a balance of, when do I step in, and then offering like, hey, tell me a little bit about what happened, letting both sides, right, talk it out, figure out where the conflict or the problem started, and what can we do to repair? What can we do better next time?
And that might not happen in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
That probably won't happen in the heat of the moment.
Because both lids, we always say like flipping our lids. I'm showing my hands, but you can't see me. So when they are escalated, right, they're not ready to talk. So maybe having everybody step away, taking a moment, or many moments. Maybe it's later that night and coming back and saying, I noticed, when you guys were playing in the playroom, this happened. And we always say like, what's up? What happened? Tell me about it. And then giving them some space to problem solve together on how to make it better.
Actually,
I was going
to say I have a family that they were experiencing a lot of sibling rivalry and sibling like challenges with playing and lots of arguments. And the mom decided, she was like, I am so tired of stepping in all the time and trying to problem solve for them. Like, it's not making a difference. So she decided that when they would have like these arguments or these disagreements, they would take a moment by themselves. And when they both realized that they were calm and their lids were down, they had to go into one of the siblings' rooms together, and they had to figure it out. They had to problem solve together, and they used like our sandwich technique of like, when this happened, I felt, and like, this is what I need, to be able to problem solve through it together. And she like totally took herself out of the equation, because she was like, I can't solve their problems for them every time.
It's amazing.
What does that look like when you say have them separate? Are you saying, parents are going to think time out, head to your bedroom, time out. So like, what are some other options that parents can do to like break the chaos?
Or a different way of saying it.
Yeah. I don't say time out in my house.
Jen and I use stop, leave, breathe, right?
Okay.
Stop. You might be noticing your body is hot. My heart is beating faster. My fists are clenched. And if they don't notice that, moms and dads, you can say, I'm noticing that you are looking like. So stop, leave, and then breathe. That might be reading a book. It might be just going to their own space, playing with Legos, or whatever it is that they
Fidgets,
need.
or whatever it could be.
Just until we can get back to that calm, rational state so that we can talk about, what has happened.
Yeah, that's great. I love that tip. Because I think...
And also, like, will it work every time? No. Not at all. Like, let's be real, right? Like, they're kids and they're learning. So, like, this is not like a magic, like, tip of like, okay, they said to do this and it's going to work now. Like, it's going to take many, many repetitions to create a new habit. So it's not like a miracle, a quick fix. Like,
just like it does for adults, right? When we're like getting into the habit of working out or eating healthier, it's not like one time and bam, we're experts, right? It takes many repetitions to create that habit.
You mentioned your sandwich technique. What is that?
So in our coaching, we teach the kids, we like have like this wooden sandwich that we use. And so one layer of the bread is when, and then they state just what happened, like not emotionally charged, right? Like when you took my toy and and when you took my toy away from me. Then the next is I felt, frustrated because I was in the middle of playing with it, or I felt angry because you didn't ask. What I need is the next time you'd like to play with that toy, ask me, and I'll probably share it with you. So giving them like those sentence starters to be able to have that conversation. And so, because normally we notice that when there's a conflict, we go at it with like, you took my toy and how dare you? And, it's like that accusing, yelling, lid is flipped. We're losing it. So the calming first, and then when this happened, I felt this way. What I need is.
What amazing skills to learn as kids. I just keep thinking this, like for my son, again, he goes and sees Coach Jen, and it's like, if I had learned these things when I was a kid, Oh my gosh. Like how much of a difference would that make as an adult, as a teenager to an adult in my
Right.
life?
And I'm thinking about how I can apply that to myself.
Exactly.
My
I
lid gets
know.
flipped. Let's be
true.
honest.
That communication piece has been really magical. I mean, as I've been watching families go through it, they put it on their fridge.
Yeah.
And they will say, like, it's hard because that's a lot of things to say, right? That's a lot of oral language to be going on. And some of my coaches will say it's uncomfortable. But as they try it and they come back, they realize that the other person is like, oh my gosh, I didn't intend for you to feel sad. I wasn't trying to make you feel angry. That wasn't my intent at all. So it helps to balance that out between two people. It's really, it's one of my favorites.
I feel like it can be calming too in a way. Like obviously you should be doing it when you're a bit more calm than screaming. But if you can learn that habit of like the sandwich technique or whatever earlier, because it's a lot easier to just start screaming at your sibling, right? Like,
Absolutely.
With no more oral words.
Yeah.
Like it's just easier to just hit and smack. I'm thinking of my kids, obviously. But then when you start learning something like that, you can be upset, but still be able to say it in that way. And then hopefully be able to resolve that problem earlier. Yeah.
Let's talk about older kids a little bit because nowadays packed sports schedules are rampant, right? Most families are on the go. And so that allows less free play as the kids are getting older. Do they still need as much free play when they're getting older? And how can families that are on the go still prioritize all the benefits we've talked about?
And what does that look like for older kids? Like free play.
Yeah,
So many
absolutely.
good questions
I know,
in
those are
that.
really great questions. I think obviously play looks different as they get older. Like those like later adolescence, early teens, it's not going to be like playing with the trucks and Barbies as much, right? But more of that like social interaction. So if that social interaction can be face to face, that right there is huge. Because and if it's, if it could be one-on-one or even in small groups, you're learning all those social cues and like reading body language and like, oh yeah, my friend looks like kind of like they're upset right now. How do I respond? Empathy, the conversation, communication, all of those life skills that are so essential that when we are maybe interacting with our friends through a video game that we're wearing headsets, it's different, right? We're not getting that same level of social skill development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And how can parents, I'm thinking about this as my son is getting older specifically, they get into more activities. You just have less home time and time to sit shoulder to shoulder and really hear them out on things that are happening in their life. And I feel like that's something that parents just want to keep really good communication as their kids get older. How do you feel like parents can do that? I know for us, I try whenever we can to do one-on-one time at bedtime with one of my kids and just lay with them for 15 minutes and they love it.
Absolutely.
But like, what are some other ways that parents can foster that great relationship communication with their kids as they get older?
I think two big things. And my mom used to say this when I was growing up. You're in the car together a lot, especially if you're traveling to all of those events. Take that opportunity. Have them pull out their headset or whatever it is that they might have on. That is your chance, right? They are in your car. They're locked in, right? Mm-hmm. You can talk about, whatever it is that you want. Find
so should you be asking questions like, hey, what are you struggling with lately?
I would maybe start there.
Right. But how do you, what kind of questions, what kind of conversations are happening?
Yeah. So at the dinner table, Jen and I,
or even in the car,
or
right?
in the car, yeah. We play this game called High-Low Buffalo. So tell me the high point of your day. What was like the best thing? What was something that was challenging? That's the low. And then the buffalo is something funny that happened today. Mm-hmm. And it's just interesting because as a kiddo is sharing, like my daughter will laugh at, something that Gabe says. And then it's like, oh, that reminds me of this. And it turns into this big, beautiful, non-invasive conversation. And keeping that conversation open in simple ways like that is going to build your relationship so that you can ask the hard questions when you need to.
Yeah, start it off with like, would you rather, like fun, like would you rather questions or whatever. Anything that just gets them engaged and talking to you. And then like just, you could gently weave in other questions along the way if it prompts itself, right?
That's a really good idea. I was going to say when the would you rather, my kids love that. And because we usually go off on tangents about other things
Right,
too.
right.
But if I'm in the car is such a good idea because that we're in the car a lot. That's where I drive them to school. Right. But one of the things too is like, I know my kids like Minecraft. They're not totally into it, like really, really, but they like it. But if I ask them questions about the things they're interested in, even if I'm like, I don't want to hear about all the things again and whatever. But if I ask them little questions, they'll start going off about their excitements and their interests. And then we can kind of go off on that too. So building the conversations and having the expectation that we're going to have a talk and whatever it is.
Now, obviously play is important to you guys. So you offer play-based coaching. What does that look like?
Everything that we do in our studio is through play. So it's science experiments, it's running, jumping, we're using our body, we're doing games, we're
obstacle courses.
Yeah, everything is, we have basketball, hockey, we, like you said, we take whatever the kiddos' interests are, whether it's crafting or sports or, Legos or whatever it could be. And we integrate that into our coaching so that they don't really necessarily realize that we're coaching them on these challenging or life skills. They just think we're playing, but they're learning through the process.
Okay. So how do you actually, what are you saying to the kids that is building these life skills? Because I'm also thinking about how can parents mimic what you do in their own homes? How are you teaching them confidence and resilience? Is it in the way that you're talking to them, or are you bringing up specific conversations about situations they're going to face? Tell us more about that.
I think it's flexible, right? So I'm thinking specifically about a kiddo who was working on confidence, and we did this Jenga tower, right? And so we were building it up, and then we were taking it down, and we were talked about, how it is that we have to build ourselves up and what are some things that hold us back. So I think relating whatever skill it is in a fun way. We've done that with board games and science experiments. We do a lot of teaching them about their brain. So about what's happening so that, they're learning through this science experiment. And then we go into when you are flipping your lid, this is why.
Awesome. That's really helpful. We had so many good tips in this episode. I'm going to be listening to this 4 times on repeat because I need all of them for myself too.
But also Mandy and I are doing these things right alongside all the families too.
Yeah.
And we will be the first to say do we get it right every time? Absolutely not. We're also messing it up daily, but it's that reflection and that coming back to it and trying better the next day.
Being intentional, trying to do your best. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I think when parents think of play, oftentimes we think of younger kids. And you did mention that you also started an Emotions Foundations program. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is and who that's for?
So our Emotion Foundations program is for 4 to 6-year-olds, and it goes along with the Little Spot books from Diane Elber, and it teaches kids to name that emotion, right? Name it to tame it. It teaches them then to recognize that in their own body and then ask for what they need. It is a 6-week program, and there's also a at-home component for families, so they're kind of learning alongside of the kiddo as they go through the program.
Yeah, we give parents little hot tip sheets that go along with whatever the kiddo learned that week in coaching. This is the language you could use at home, and this is the approach that you could, try to do so that they're seeing it with us, but then they're also incorporating it at home.
I love that you're calling it foundations because I can see this. I could have seen this helping my kids so much too when they were that age. So if anybody has little kids and they're thinking about it, definitely ask about this program because I bet it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the experience that we've had so far has been really, really wonderful.
Yeah.
Speaking of your programs, you have been very generous to offer our listeners a 10% discount on any coaching program. And if you guys did not listen to episode 1, we did dive into kind of all the coaching options that these ladies offer. They offer one-on-one, they offer group, they offer things that are for families where the parents are really, really involved. They even are offering parent-specific programs. So go ahead and learn more about those by listening to episode 1 and or visiting their website, which is, what's your website?
EmpoweredMindsKidStudio.com.
Perfect. Thank you, ladies. This was a really awesome episode, and we can't wait for 2 more. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider leaving a rating or review or sharing it directly with a friend who could benefit from the information? We know that you're a busy mom or caregiver, and our goal is to make your life easier by bringing tips and tricks directly from experts into your earbuds. By sharing this episode with someone you love, you can play a critical role in helping to make their life easier as well. We appreciate your time and thank you for being a part of the Motherhood Alliance family.